Well, I'm sure we've all seen those images of last year of teenage boys in detention, tear-gassed and manhandled. There's a Royal Commission into that right now, but that deals with offenders once they're already in the system. That's where so much of the attention is. The Northern Territory, for instance, has the highest rate of juvenile detention in Australia, yet spends only a fraction of its law and order budget on programs that might keep youths out of the lockup. Jane Bardon reports, though, on one program that uses bush skills to change young lives.
On a remote station 100 kilometres from Alice Springs, these young people have been offered an alternative to detention.
My lawyer put me in this place. So I said, it's either here or Juby. Then I said, here. Yeah, so I'm here to give up drinking, give that a bit of rest, and smoking.
The BushMob programme has been operating for 18 years. It teaches young people life skills, self-respect and empathy with victims of crime.
I'm just going out bush and just going for a ride, going to the old wood, kick around, football and stuff, learning how to respect and stuff.
Referrals come from families, courts and government departments.
Young people are coming in with massively complex issues. Some of them have been in welfare since birth, drug and alcohol, failure to go to school, interactions with the criminal justice system and so on.
Its founder argues BushMob is a more effective way of rehabilitating young people at risk of reoffending than detention.
It's a lot more expensive to put someone in prison than it is out here. The cost-benefit analysis alone is worth the effort of trialling new things.
More than a decade ago, a young boy named Dylan Voller tried unsuccessfully to get a crisis placement here. But at the time, BushMob didn't have the capacity to offer intensive support.
Well, someone who's been in custody for as long as he has obviously needs to reintegrate into the community in a structured and supervised manner. That is exactly why we're trying to get him out. He's been eligible for parole for quite some time now.
Dylan Voller went on to spend 7 years in and out of juvenile detention for offences including assault and theft. His treatment in incarceration is now being investigated by the Royal Commission into Youth Detention. He's currently serving time in an adult prison, but his family want him released and sent to BushMob.
If we had have done that when Dylan Voller was a younger person, instead of spending money, copious amounts of money, locking him up for long periods of time, he may not have reoffended as often.
We try to be open to any young person. Doesn't matter what their background and so on. As long as we assess that the young person has the capacity to actually do our programs.
BushMob is the last residential youth diversion programme still funded by the Northern Territory Government after a series of cuts under successive administrations. The NT government now spends less than 1% of its law and order budget on youth diversion. Rates of young people being detained have soared.
If they get into the system, they just penetrate deeper and deeper. Their self-concept changes, they see themselves as offenders, and they learn the tricks of the trade, so they become better at it, better at offending, better at not getting caught.
This is my room here.
The new Labour government is flagging it will increase diversion spending.
I've inherited a youth justice budget that's $24 million. $2 million of that is spent on diversion. The rest is spent on that really pointy end, which we know is not working. We need to turn that ratio around. That is going to take some time and some work.
The smaller ones, the better.
But it wants a guarantee of value for money.
Whatever we fund, it needs to be as flexible as possible because we need to be looking at kids' individual situations. Now, some kids do extremely well in that type of wilderness setting. They do extremely well in going and working on a stock camp. Other kids do really well working in a motorbike shop.
The research supporting what works is scant.
There is good research in the Northern Territory, for instance, that suggests that diversionary programs work well for young Indigenous offenders. A colleague of mine did some research about 10 years ago, and she found that if the young Indigenous offenders completed the program, 12 months later, 75% of them hadn't reoffended.
Has it been good feeling or bad feeling?
An evaluation of BushMob in 2009 by Deakin University found it was cost effective and that it compared favourably with any clinical health intervention. BushMob also carries out its own assessments.
We can see over the 3 months an improvement on a graph, and the young person can see that and go, oh, when I first came, I didn't care. Now, I do care, because if someone took my headphones or iPhone or whatever, I'd be really angry. I can understand how that victim might feel. So there's a lot of work around that.
But it's not a quick fix.
So a young person might come to us at 12 years old, disappear into the ether for a while and come back at 15, and then come back at 18.
BushMob is nervously waiting for the outcome of the government's deliberations.
What we find is that with the short-term consumerist political cycles that are in this country, is there's a failure to have intergenerational long-term planning around working with young people in need.
The young people at BushMob are in no doubt about the difference it's making for them.
Oh, don't they? You just have to stay in cells. Can't hardly do anything in there. But here you can go do riding stuff. You can go out.
They help you get a job and stuff, get your license, make you get back on the right road, you know.
Oh, just find a job. Construction, that's my goal. Yeah. So I can just have a good life when I get older, have a good future.